This is what a steam and bake looks like. You can see the swirls of yellow and chocolate. Okay, today we're going to make cake box mix inside a Foodi OL 701 using the steam bake function. And we're just going to use just a regular box type of cake mix. Now, when you're going to use the Foodi to make your cake mixes, there's 3 ways you could go about it. You could put it in a regular cake pan and then put it on bake and then use it at 25 degrees less than the box recommendation, 350. Bake it at 325 for the usual amount of time. But we're going to use the steam bake function to make it a moisture cake. Now, there's 2 ways you could do that. You could follow the Foodi recipe book, and they tell you how to make a cake using a cake mix. And basically, they want less water into the cake mix because when you're steaming it, you're going to add water to the mixture. But I found out that if you just use the recipe on the cake box, it comes out just fine. So we don't have to play around with reducing water at all. So we'll start out with just a regular cake mix box, 15 1/4 ounces. And we're just following the box recipe. Now this is a yellow cake mix, and we're going to transform this yellow cake mix into marble cake using a yellow cake mix. So this is going to be a little bit different. So we got the cake mix in the pan, and then we're going to add 3 eggs. I believe everybody here knows how to make cake mixes. I use the box to put my shells in so it doesn't get all over the place. And we can use 1 cup of water, 1/2 cup of oil. Then drop this down. Turn it on. On low until it's mixed. Then when it's mixed, we'll put it on medium for 2 minutes. And that's per the instructions on the box. Follow the instructions on the box. Everybody has a different way of making the cake mix. Scrape down the walls once in a while, and we'll get back to you after 2 minutes. Okay, it's been 2 minutes. We're gonna put half this batter into the Foodi all-purpose pan. Take this out. And you're gonna just try to eyeball it, so half the batter. Okay, so we got about half the batter in there. Put this back on the mixer. And then we have half the batter left in this pan, so I'm going to add 2 to 3 tablespoons of this cocoa powder. Just mix it gently like this, so once we turn the mixer on, the powder is going to fly all over the place, so we just wet it down a little bit. I'll just beat this thing on low until it's mixed. I don't want to overbeat it now, so. About 20 seconds. You can see it's a little bit lumpy, but that's fine. It's going to add a little bit texture to marble cake. If you don't want the lumps, naturally you could sift out the cocoa powder. Now, I found out that it's better to slowly introduce the chocolate cake on top of this mix here. And we just pour, so you got to be a little bit careful here. It's going to sink into the batter anyways as it goes on, so you're going to get that marble effect. If you just to dump it in, you're going to have the chocolate is going to sink to the bottom, so you don't want to do that. You want to kind of float it on top. So you got to be a little bit. Okay, and this is what it looks like. Meanwhile, in the Foodi, I added 3 cups of water into the inner pot. We're going to put our all-purpose pan into the inner pot. We use a sling, so just clip this sling on there. Close the lid. Make sure it's in the middle. We're going to just turn this dial down to steam and bake. Temperature is going to be 285. Foodi suggests 285 for 25 minutes. But I found out that on this box mix, we're pretty good with 22 or 23 minutes. I like to keep it a little bit moist, so. So it's going to preheat. Once the water gets hot, starts to steam, then the timer will set up and start, and we should be through in 22 to 23 minutes. And I'll get back to you at that point. Foodi beeps, so it must be done. That's what it looks like. Yep, little push test. Make sure it springs up. If it doesn't spring up, it's not cooked. This is what a steam and bake looks like. Now, as you noticed, we dumped the whole cake mix into this all-purpose pan, and it baked it perfectly. A lot of times you have to bake cake in 2 pans, but this pan is deep enough to hold the whole cake mix in. So let it sit down for a minute or so let it cool down, and then we just lift up on these tabs and pull it out. Okay, we let it rest for a minute or so, let it cool down a bit. Then we're going to put it on a plate, or probably we'll put it on a wire rack here so it cools off. Means you want the cake a little bit cool before you whip cream it. See how it just comes right up. Then we'll let it cool down on the rack. So we'll get back to you once this thing cools down. I'll cut it in half, and then we use some stabilized whipped cream and fresh strawberries to dress it up. Okay, we let the cake cool down a bit now. So use the dental floss. And then all you do is just start pulling the dental floss straight across. Try to go straight. That's all. Cake is done, cut in half. Okay, the cake has cooled off now. And what we're going to do is we're going to use whipped cream and fresh strawberries as our filling and as our topping. Now I just want to mention that the difference between using the cake box mix and Foodi's direction is that the Foodi's direction, the cake's going to come out a little more denser than the cake box mix. It's going to be a little more fluffier. But that's the only difference that I could tell. And using stabilized whipped cream, and I have a video on stabilized whipped cream if you want to see how I make that. But let's open this thing up now. It's cooled down quite a bit. And there's our marble cake. You can see the swirls of chocolate and yellow cake. Peel off this bottom piece like this. And this is our bottom. Now I can tell it's very moist by me touching it. So we start off by putting a thin veneer coating of whipped cream down. And this is going to hold the strawberries in place. Just show you the bottom portion. I'm not going to bore you on decorating this whole cake here. And then we got some thinly sliced strawberries. And we just layer it on the inside. We just go around the cake. Okay, so after we got the veneer on, then we'll just take the whipped cream put on top. I like it a little bit thick, and I like the top of the cake a little bit on the thinner side. So we're going to use probably 3/4 whipped cream just for the center section. Bring it to the edge a bit. Then we grab the top section, lay it on top. And then whatever you have on the whipped cream, you just decorate the top. If you have enough whipped cream left over, you could go down the sides of the cake. Try to clean up the side, but I only used 1 cup of whipped cream. In order to go down the side, you're probably going to have to use 2 cups. So we'll stick on the strawberries on top. We want our dessert to be somewhat nutritious. Okay, here's our decorated strawberry whipped cream cake. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in the refrigerator for about 2 or 3 hours, let the whipped cream set up, and then we should be ready to cut it open and see what it looks like. Well, it looks like dinner time at the household. This thing's been sitting there for like 3 hours, so it's set up. So let's take a cut into it. See what marble cake looks like. Give a nice little taste here. You see the whipped cream, chocolate, and then the yellow cake. It's just like the cake box mix, like it should. Good point is that we use actual chocolate cocoa for the chocolate part, so it's going to taste like a chocolate, not like the imitation chocolate you usually get in a cake box mix. And then what I'll do is I'll cut this in half so we can see it, what it looks like. But this is what it looks like. You can see the swirls of the yellow and chocolate. So if you're wondering how a cake mix comes out inside a Ninja Foodi, well, here it is. And it looks like my dogs are waiting for our cake, so. They can't have the chocolate portion, but they have the yellow part, so. What do you think about the Foodi cake mix? Good? What do you think? Good, huh? Well, I hope you found this video informative. Please click the like button. When you have a chance, please subscribe. And thank you for watching.